Hi, everybody. Here we are again, the Hollywood Progressive team, Dick, Sharon, and Linnea. We saw another play Sunday. The play was Can I Touch It by Francesca da Silveira. The play is about a black wig shop owner is fighting to save her business from forces that are gentrifying traditionally black sections of Boston. The play examines Black hair politics, racial inequalities faced by Black-owned businesses, and as the program says, stupid ass questions Black women get asked about their hair. Have either of you ever been asked stupid ass questions about your hair?
Well, I definitely have. As you can see, I've got quite a healthy mop here of my natural born and raised hair. Um, and when I was younger, I actually had it cut and I had Angela Davis, wonderful, luscious afro when I was in middle school, I believe. And that was a daily occurrence, a daily question. Or you would catch people staring as you walked by who definitely wanted to ask. So this was really meaningful to me personally, and touched on a lot of things. This play covers a lot of really important topics in terms of social justice and the Black lived experience in America, particularly. Um, I do think personally it did feel a little disjointed, all these really big, important topics that were covered and talked about. A little disjointed from each other. There were a couple of weird little moments, but overall, I think it was well done. The acting was really wonderful. There were four actors total, and three of them played multiple characters, and man, their delivery was phenomenal. I also wanted to touch real quickly about the set. This is another wonderful, very creative set, uh, beautifully put together, extremely simple and yet very powerful and meaningful um, outcome and impact when you walk in. You felt like you were at three or four, yeah, five or six different places actually. I love what some of these theaters can do, some of these production teams create with some of these sets. It's fantastic. I enjoyed it, and the the social justice aspect was something that was really, really important to me. One thing I really enjoyed was how there was meaningful change enacted through social media activism, and how this one particular character was able to create really important, powerful change, at least in this, micro environment where they were in. I believe this was set in Boston, Massachusetts. And that was really refreshing to see the younger generation wanting to get involved, getting involved, and then actually creating a tangible outcome for um, some of the characters on the play. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed it. Sharon, what
Yeah.
did you think?
Well, let me say that
Oh, stole it back.
I remember your middle school experience, and you did look gorgeous. You had a perfect round afro. I told you it looked like Angela Davis, and at whatever you were, 10 years old, you didn't know who Angela Davis was.
I did not.
I also remember that it disappeared quickly, and you were kind of glum about it because it was the at your half white or two-thirds white high school, everybody was touching it, and I was kind of sad about that because it was like I mean, I think it did something to you emotionally other than just cosmetically. You've never had problems with being a Black woman in America, have you?
Okay, so the play, the set, the music, the acting, I thought were all A plus. The set, which is really a small, it's a small theater. In terms of square footage, they took a tiny space and they were able to very effectively create several different scenes. And I think I remember there was a bank scene, there's a barber shop, there's the central beauty parlor, there's a community center where they were having meetings, and also a college where the young woman sat on the bench with her mom's best friend talking about them. So they were at the college. So I thought, wow, they really pulled a lot out of that really small space and quite convincingly. So for me, this is how I experienced it. I enjoyed it, but it was sort of like the background music of my life. It was very, very familiar. The music was familiar. The kinds of conversations that the actors were having with each other were very familiar. They were the conversations that were had in my childhood home. So I could just sit quite comfortably. Nothing challenged me. Nothing at all, because this is the stuff we talk about. This is the music we like. I wanted to see a little bit more of the discussion of Black hair, the evolution of Black hair in America, and the parallels between Black hair, anti-Blackness, and social justice. There's a sociologist who unfortunately passed away like within the past 5 years. He was a sociologist, I believe, a college professor, and also a writer. And he wrote mostly about race, gender, and power. He's a white man. And I really liked this guy's writing. First of all, it amazed me that this white man could see the things that he could see, because typically in the United States, white people, but more specifically white men, unless they're in relationship with Black people, are generally oblivious to the ways in which Black people walk in this country, what we have to navigate, particularly about hair. White men know nothing about Black women and their hair. But this guy, Alan Johnson, he likened the acceptance of Black hair. He said the way that you can tell the stratifications, the class stratifications, and the direct connection between race and class. He says, take a Black woman and have the Black woman put on a wig that looks like white woman's hair and have them go out, and they'll just be accepted. It won't seem bizarre, it won't seem strange. She's putting on a white woman's hair, and she'll just be accepted. So now take a white man and have him put on a wig with Black man's hair. And you could tell right away what kind of reaction he's going to get. He says, and that's sort of an easy way for you to see the indicators of what is acceptable, what you're trying to achieve something by wearing the mask of the higher class, higher tiered grouping. But if you go to the lower, and that's considered lower in the way that he described it, you will be mocked. So I was hoping for more of those kinds of discussions in the play, and they weren't there. But that doesn't make the play bad in any way. And there's no reason for me to expect that those kinds of discussions would be in the play. I loved it. I was comfortable. Like I said, it just kind of felt like the background music of my life.
Yeah, so it's directed by Greg T. Daniels, stars Safira Fredericks, Susan Baraka, Aisha Daniels, and Scott Victor Nelson. The fact that weren't challenged by it in a way is good, because that it was authentically Black play with Black characters who came across in different guises and were very authentic. I think it would be more challenging to a white audience, as you say, Black men, and probably a lot of white men, and probably a lot of white women don't really catch the significance, the difficulty, the challenge that Black bodies place on Black women, their hair, but also their body, and how they're put in all this pressure to conform in the workplace. There are news stories about Black women who are fired.
Yeah, not looking professional.
For refusing to change their dreadlocks or change the way their hair is. I think politicians, right-wing politicians, are offended by Black women wearing dreadlocks. They think it's revolutionary in some place. On Nia's point, it used to be when you'd go to a play, as they would switch scenes, a group of stagehands would run out in the dark, all dressed in black, and move stuff around. I think it's clever as can be that the actors themselves just kind of swish around and push a table aside and flip the screens around. To me, that adds to the interesting experience, and this play does all of that very cleverly. The music, the costumes they wear, the wig shop, it really kind of looks like a wig shop. I too lost the thread of certain things. Some things I didn't catch the significance of. There's a book that's pulled down from amongst the wigs, and something's read out of it, and then the book is torn apart in half, and that's supposed to be significant, but I didn't know what it signifies. So I mean, that's just one thing, but there were kind of a few of those kind of things. I wanted to talk about one of the main themes, other than hair, well, it was related to hair, was the gentrification of Boston. And we can see, we know that in Los Angeles. Boston, from the little research I did, is the third most gentrified city in America, behind San Francisco and Denver. 21% of Boston's neighborhoods have been gentrified in the last 10 years. In Roxbury, where I believe this was placed, which is a section of Boston, 81% of the renters are renters. So, for example, over 10 years, the Black population has plumbed 45% in Compton, 43% in San Francisco, 40% in Oakland, and obviously in Boston, that's an effect too. So
I didn't get that. Say that again. In Roxbury.
In Roxbury, 81% of renters. Well, that's partly what's going on. I mean, Black people are driven out of cities like Los Angeles. They're driven out to Moreno Valley and Victorville and so forth by a couple things. One, the cost of housing, and the fact that more Black people are poorly paid. And right under that is racism. I mean, why are Black people more poorly paid? Why do they have a hard time buying a house in a certain neighborhood? So they get pushed out to Moreno Valley, where you lived while you were going to school, and Victorville, where you had family. And is that bad? Well, if you live in Moreno Valley, you're not going to go see an in-person play. You're not going to go to a Dodger game. You're not going to take advantage of the big city. You're going to be out there where you're.
And what about your influence politically? You have really, you're not going to be voting for Karen Bass for mayor because you don't live in Los Angeles anymore. There's a whole, there's a whole domino effect that impacts when you've had basically gentrification, and gentrification for the most part really affects Black and brown people.
Right. And so the play, a major theme of the play is the wig shop owner is fighting the trend in her neighborhood to move out to Framingham, which is like Moreno Valley, is outside of Boston. So you don't get to go to a Red Sox game or a Celtics game, or go to the ancient, 200-year-old public libraries. You're kind of in a town without resources,
and you can't set policy. I mean,
right.
Going to the games and being entertained, that's wonderful. It's good and it's healthy and it's needed. But even more important is you want to have control over decisions that are made that affect your life.
Yeah. So that's why she was fighting it, and also what happens in all these neighborhoods that I mentioned, and the neighborhood in this play is. This was a long-term traditional Black neighborhood with, relationships and crossovers and friendships and experience. And suddenly you can't afford to live where you've lived because you're a renter and the landlord keeps raising the rent. Now, if you own, then you'd have the pressure. Well, then there's people who want to buy you out, as happens with this wig shop, and then you can't make your mortgage goes up, and I mean, so politically, the play was right on, I think, and Black women's hair is integral to that, because it's the way the white world treats Black women's hair and the way Black women are forced to react, perhaps. I mean, the idea was these are all a big collection of wigs that made black women look more like white women.
Right. So they're basically social indicators.
Right.
You can use this as an indication or a measure of how well Black people have been embraced by the greater society, or how they have to continue to wear a mask. And one thing I told you about Michelle Obama, I told you that when Michelle Obama and the girls got into the White House, you're going to see that you will never see their hair in its natural state. And she never, as far as I'm aware of, she never actually came out and made a statement about that. But recently, if you've noticed, Michelle is wearing braids and her hair is more natural. And I heard her say on a late night talk show, she says, you know, I had to be very careful. And I didn't start wearing my hair in its natural state until I left the White House, because they just weren't ready for it. You saw how up in arms they were when she wore something sleeveless. So you just really just can't be who you are. It's difficult enough just being Black. You can't be fully authentically Black without having some backlash.
Right. So my thought was, as you said, the acting was superb. The appearance, the stage, and the movement was quite wonderful. I love the music behind it. The story is politically right on, but a little wobbly in some ways. You lose track of it. But I highly recommend seeing it. It plays at the Matrix on Melrose Avenue, Friday, Saturday, and Monday nights at 8, and Sundays at 3 through June 11th.
Awesome. Yeah, go see it. And I love the music. I got to hear India Ari.
Any last thoughts, Nia? Sharon?
Nope.
So we'll be back shortly. Thank you.
Thank you.